This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 195 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show, Tack Through Time. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible.
Equestrian Collections for all of your equestrian shopping needs. Equity Manufacturing, home of the coolest manure fork ever invented. Kentucky Performance Products, scientifically proven supplements for your horse. And Draper Therapies, who we're going to talk a lot more about today. Find them all at stablescoop.com.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And this is Helena B. And you're listening to the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Well, howdy, Helena.
Hi, Glenn.
We've been having so much fun down here in Florida. We went out last weekend. I got to tell you about this real quick. And my brother lives about a mile from us in the same equestrian development, and his wife rides a quarter horse about the same size as my wife's Beaker. And so we went out to the Florida Greenway, and Saturday morning, those two went out on the horse trails, and Wayne and I went out on the bicycle trails and did some serious, in what seemed like Star Wars-like jungle. Right out of the planet Endor. Kind of reminded me of that, actually. And we had the best time riding out there. The Florida Greenway is actually a linear park that goes all the way across the entire state of Florida.
And how far did you go?
We went a couple hours out there into the wilderness and back. But,
what did you do, you little Ewok?
We rode our bikes. We rode our bikes through the forest. Now, I don't have as cool a bikes as they Ewoks had, the ones that flew. We weren't flying. No, it was no flying. But this trail, was through some of the coolest palm tree forests and pine forests and, with trails that were just wide enough to fit your handlebars through. It was really, really cool. And Jennifer and Pam had a great time on the horses. They apparently had one attack of the flies. They hit a fly section, and that caused the horses to be a little goofy for a couple minutes. And pretty soon down here, you won't be able to do that ride until the end of summer.
Because of the bugs?
The bugs will get too bad.
Yeah.
And the heat. But it was really, really neat. It was like being in a different world. It was really cool. Mm-hmm. Really cool. It was fun.
Now, how long did it take you? You had to trailer over to the
15
Greenway.
minutes. It's 15,
how much?
It's 15 minutes from here.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and this thing, literally, they have the most beautiful trailheads where you park your truck and trailer. It's set up for horses, and they have big troughs for water. They have hoses and sections where you can hose your horse off. They have ties everywhere for the horses. They have full running bathrooms for the people. It's beautiful.
All right, fine. Just find me a real estate agent, will ya? A good one.
It's beautiful. The trailheads are well kept up. They're very, very nice. You can camp there. It's cool. It was.
And really none of those little gopher hole, sand hole things?
No. We were showing Helena these things in our back field that just appear out of nowhere, and they're just foot and leg size for a horse to fall down into. And that's happened to our horse a couple times, where his leg just disappears down to the knee.
Yeah, that's scary. There's this huge 100-acre field right behind their house, and you're like, oh, I want to gallop through it. It's rolling, and you can imagine yourself doing all kinds of wonderful things in the saddle, and then you see these little patches of sand, little maybe 12 inches across.
Yep.
8 to 12 inches across, and you're like, oh, what's that? And they're holes. They're holes.
We have more burrowing,
cannon bone sized holes.
Yeah, exactly. And we have more burrowing creatures here in Florida than I've ever seen before. I don't know what they all are, but
the soil is so sandy, it's easy for those little critters to get down in there.
That's right. And fire ants. I have never seen so many ants in my life as we have on our property. But those are part of the punishments we have to pay for living in paradise, right?
This is true. This is true. And having now visited Ocala and your little corner of that paradise, I would say it's a small price to pay.
That's right.
Although that spider, I don't know. That's a big bill right there.
Yeah, Helena saw one of our fist-sized spiders that we have down here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a big show today, don't we?
We do.
We have a very special guest with us. Can I introduce her, please?
Sure. She's sitting with you.
She is sitting with me in my little studio here in New England. I have with me Kat. Please pronounce your last name.
Voitalak.
Kat Voitalak. She's with Draper Therapies. And those of you who are dedicated listeners have tuned into shows that we've done before, either featuring Draper Therapies products, or I actually went up to the mill, which is in Massachusetts, not too far from me. And Kat was kind enough to give me a tour of the Draper mill. And so it's a really interesting company and really interesting product development process. So welcome to Kat.
Thank you for having me.
And Kat's just a lot of fun, too.
I try to be.
She's a good person. Glenn, I don't like people, but I like Kat.
Yeah, you're a dressage rider, right, Kat?
I am a everything kind of horse person. So at the moment, I'm kind of more trail riding, dressage, but it just all depends on the day. So...
Well, I know you belong to, is it NEDA?
Yes, it's the New England Dressage Association.
And that's how I knew you had that dressage contact there. But and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, too. I want to hear more about the Dressage Association up there and how important those associations are across the country to the sports that they represent, those ground-level associations. So we'll talk more about that, too. We also have another guest coming up, Michael Diamond, who's a partner and vice president of marketing of English Riding Supply. Michael goes way back to the Miller's times and all through the years. He has the whole history of equestrian product in his head, and I've known him for a long time, and we thought it'd be interesting to get him on to talk about the old days of what it used to be like in buying and selling product back before the internet. I know, that seems like that's old times now, Helena. Before internet, pre-internet.
Pre-internet. There was no pre-internet.
I don't even know. I'm so young, so... I had to say it. I'm sorry.
I can pinch her. She's sitting right here next to me. I can pinch her. She'll learn.
Yeah, she's all of 18, doesn't remember any of this. So we're going to be doing that a little bit later. Plus, we have a product pick for the Tack and Habit segment as well. But first, we're going to take a little break for one of our favorite retailers out there that's been around since Jennifer and I started our tack shop back in the mid-'90s, and that's Equestrian Collections. Howdy, everybody. Glenn here from the Horse Radio Network, and I'm speaking to Debbie, and we have our Equestrian Collections Product of the Week.
Hi, Glenn. This week, we're going to highlight the upcoming Summer Olympics. The equestrian teams will be there, and we want to support them. And so does Iridian. Iridian now is offering the London 2012 T-shirt. It's got a picture of a horse on it with kind of a Union Jack on there. You can see it's red, white, and blue, and it's in stock and ready to go now. We also have an American version of this, and that is called the Miss America T-shirt. These are all in lady sizes, and please get them at www.Equestrian Collections and support our Olympic teams.
Well, you go to Equestrian Collections and search for Iridian London or Iridian Miss America, and you'll find these particular shirts. I like them. They're good looking. I think these are going to be good sellers for the summertime.
And here's another thing. Don't forget that Iridian is actually spelled I Ride On. I-R-I-D-E-O-N.
I Ride On at equestriancollections.com. Thanks to Equestrian Collections for their product of the week. Well, Kat, now you have ridden in the past. Obviously, you say you trail ride and you've ridden dressage, and you're also part of NEDA, the association up there in New England. Is that what led you into wanting to get a job with a company like Draper?
Well, my background, I've rode horses since I was really teeny tiny, and I actually ended up going to school in upstate New York at SUNY Morrisville, where I got a bachelor's degree in equine science and management.
Okay, first of all, stop there. Couldn't you have picked an equestrian school that was in a warmer place with a lot less snow?
I grew up in Buffalo.
Oh, well, that was
warmer.
So I just went a little bit, more east. So
East, yeah. She didn't even come south. She went east.
right. So I actually ended up going to school, and I graduated with a minor in racehorse management. So I used to ride hunter jumpers, used to do eventers when I was younger, did, a little bit of dressage, and then I went to school thinking I was going to be a hunter jumper trainer, and I was like, you know what, this really isn't for me, and there they offered a great opportunity to learn the breeding aspect, but then I transitioned to the racehorses because it was something so foreign to me, but I wanted to immerse myself into that, which was awesome to be able to do that. So I actually had my qualifying license, so I could actually race standardbreds at the fairs in New York, which was pretty awesome.
I didn't know you were involved in standardbreds.
Yeah. So that's what I did for a number of years. I mean, I used to go to all the auctions and all that kind of stuff, and that's what I ended up, when I graduated, I went to work for Winback Farm, which is the largest standardbred breeding farm, I think, in the world. They have at one time up to 1,600 horses at their facility.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Wow.
crazy. And it was a wonderful place to work, and I actually managed all of their stallion syndicates when I worked with them. So it was a really amazing opportunity, but then I transferred over and I actually Hilltop Farm, which is a top sport horse breeding and training facility. I worked for them as their barn manager for a time. So that transitioned me more into the dressage aspect. And then I moved up to Massachusetts where I got a job with Draper. And I've always been, and I love being able to immerse myself in all the horse culture because I feel like you can take stuff from any part, like the hunter jumpers, dressage, racehorses, and apply it to what you're currently doing. So I've always been kind of an advocate of everything. So,
Well, that's a nice fit too, because with such a well-rounded background, Draper is sort of the spoke or the center of that wheel.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And all of these little disciplines and horse cultures.
I'm still stuck on the fact that she's a driver.
I can send you pictures. So
I wanted to go find me a standardbred to rehome now. You kidding me?
Do you know,
We're gonna
Kat?
put her-
I
She
don't
thinks
know
she's
that-
busy now.
I don't know that we talked about this, but that's what I want to find. I want to get a driving horse again, and we're looking for a standardbred that rides and drives.
Oh yeah, I mean I used to take all the ones that we were racing and training and just teach them to ride because it's such an easy transition to do. Cantering is a little bit different, but most times it's like such an easy transition to just hop on their backs and go. And they're so level-headed. It's amazing to be able to work with them like that.
I'll tell you, Glenn, your wife is just hell-bent on getting a standardbred in her house.
I know.
She is. She's going to do it some way, somehow.
That leads me to a question that's totally off topic, but that's what we do here. Why do you think that standardbreds have not been accepted into the horse world like thoroughbreds have? Do you know what I'm asking? Why?
I do, and this is my theory on the whole thing is that the thoroughbreds are like the king sport. I mean, it's anybody who's a big player. I mean, there's so much top money that's thrown around. It's disgusting. When you look at their auctions and horses are selling for millions of dollars, and it's this horse, it's a yearling that it could break its leg 2 seconds later and you're out a couple $1 million. It just baffles me. But you look at standardbreds and you're not, I mean, they used to be a way of life. They were the horses that you used to go to the market. They were the ones then you would race and make money off of. And they're just kind of the poor man's horse, but they're also the ones that your whole family can be around. So why they're not more, appreciated, I still don't understand. But I've also, until I went to school for it, I had no idea they were such versatile and amazing horses.
Yeah, most people think of, when you think of racehorses, you think of the what's the word I'm looking for? The mentality and the highness of the thoroughbred.
Right.
And the standardbreds aren't like that.
They're
No.
like stock cars, There's like the thoroughbreds are the Formula One cars. They're the fancy, glamorous.
That break every
version.
2 minutes.
Right. And then, exactly. And then your stock cars, which are really just, they're working vehicles first, who are then, put to the test. And so there's just not that glamour. But now we're talking about this. Maybe I want to switch over from quarter horses to standard
Oh
breds.
my God! Every time we talk about a breed, she's getting that breed. It happens
Oh,
every time.
stuff it.
So, Kat,
I'm gonna
one of the
find
things too,
something.
I think that's against standardbreds, and again, this is totally off topic, but that I think was against standardbreds is they were always known as not being the most attractive. The term jughead came about for a reason.
I have some pictures which I feel bad because there was this one yearling that was, he had pig eyes, they were offset. He had just the most Roman nose that was, he literally, if he would have just tilted his neck down or his head down, it would have touched his neck. I mean, it's such a weird looking creature, but at the same time, he was so cute. I couldn't help but take pictures and love up on him. So, I mean, they've always had that
Roman nose, and a lot of people
right.
don't, the severe Roman nose, and a lot of people don't like the Roman noses, and that's where they got the term jugheads, is their heads never really matched their bodies. But I think with the breeding going on today, they've gotten much cuter.
Oh, absolutely. I used to work at a breeding farm at Wimback, so it was really nice to be able to go out there and see. And really, it's not so much that they're jugheads anymore. They're really, especially the trotters, are so refined and so beautiful that you would never, like, if you just, other than having the tattoos usually on their neck, you would never know it was a standardbred. I mean, they can absolutely be top quality horses if you just looked at them from that aspect. But then you look at the breeding and you're like, oh my gosh, standardbred, and it's taboo of sorts.
Clear your calendar. We're going shopping.
That's a long way, going 35 miles an hour behind a horse to dressage.
It is, but that's where it's just the beauty of it. I mean, I got involved with NITA just because Draper Therapies has been sponsoring NITA for a couple of years, and my housemate, she sits on the board. So I had been involved with NITA since I moved up here, but just kind of an offshoot way. And the more I went to events, early on with Draper and got to know the people at NITA, they were just amazing people to work with. And they're helping my education with dressage more and more, which is, something I didn't have a ton of background with. Yes, I wrote it, but I didn't really understand it and all the nuts and bolts of it. And they're really providing me that education, even though I now sit on the board. I get to provide my, aspect of things towards them too, which, they didn't have access to otherwise because everybody else is involved in the dressage world. So it's a nice balance, I feel, and it's been great to be a part of all of that.
NITA's pretty big. It's no joke. I mean, it's according to them, NITA obviously is New England Dressage Association, but it's the largest single chapter of the American Dressage Organization. So we've got quite a few dressage enthusiasts up here, which means that they are do they have an influence on the other dressage organizations in the country?
I would say absolutely. I mean, NITA is celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So, I mean, they really pioneered getting dressage and top quality trainers from Europe, and now they're getting to tap into top quality educators here in New England and in America. So they're giving access and education to the community around them, and they're involving other organizations too to help promote the sport of dressage. So it's New England and community, but at the same time, we're reaching a larger audience. And a lot of other organizations are looking to us and seeing what we're doing, and then they're able to take their organizations that much further. So it's really wonderful to kind of be a part of all of that.
It's like a model for other smaller organizations.
Yeah.
How important are those smaller local and regional organizations to a community like dressage?
Oh, they're huge. I mean, if you look, in any organization, you can look from your 4-H's up to your regional GMOs, because we have regional ones that are like the next step up, kind of from your 4-H program, that maybe will cover all of New York or might cover, just one area of Massachusetts or Maine or things like that. And they're the ones that get people introduced first and foremost. Then you can go the next step up and be involved with NITA. And then you can have something like the USDF, which is the next step up. But it gets people in at the grassroots level that may or may not be competitive and introduce them to the sport of dressage. If they want to compete or if they want to really take their education further, that's when they can become more involved with, NITA.
Okay. Interesting. Well, and of course, one of your missions is education, and I think that at the grassroots level is much more effective than it is at the national level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's what I keep finding more and more, because I've now it's my volunteer position with NITA, is I get to do their marketing, which is really wonderful. And I've gotten to learn, I had no idea NITA had so many facets as far as education, but they're so bent on community. Everybody is just a ginormous family. Like, yes, we might be the largest single chapter GMO, but at the same time, it's such a close-knit family. You go to these shows, you might volunteer, but you're learning so much and you're part of a family. So then you can, even if you don't compete, it's still a wonderful group to be a part of.
Terrific.
Well, I don't even ride dressage, and now I want to join the group. I really need a horse.
Kat, have you ever fox hunted?
No, I haven't, but it's something I've really, really wanted to do.
I think
So-
Helena's going to have you out there. I think that's what's going to
Yeah,
be
So
happening.
clearly, we're going to be playing off of one another for whatever we can provide on.
This is good. I'm just going to need a couple of extra knee braces.
All right, let's take a break. I actually got to spend a little bit of time with Joseph from Equity Manufacturing, and he had a couple of helpful tips that we're going to give you over the next couple of weeks. And we're going to be back then with our guest today, Michael Diamond, and talk a little bit about the history of horse products in the country. Well, hi, Joseph from EquityMFG.com. It's good to have you back again.
Well, thank you, Glenn. It's good to be back, and today I thought I would offer your listeners a tip for this spring that I discovered some years ago, and I use very effectively on our ranch.
Okay.
And as you know, one of the annoying results of owning horses can be the inevitable fly population that seems to pop up.
No.
Yeah, especially this time of year.
You know,
I
we
know
don't
you guys-
have as many down here in Florida as we had in Kentucky. We had a ton in Kentucky.
But you guys got those stinging red ants. So
Yeah, we make up for it there. Yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
exactly. You sit down on your sand, and then you see just how uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So what about the flies?
Well, my wife, Diane, has purchased every type of fly killer that you can think of, and that would include the sticky little fly tapes and the smelly fly bags, which I hate, and expensive fly predators and toxic fly baits. And yet we still have flies, and I need to point out that Diane is religious about cleaning up the horse manure in our place, and she'll actually go out and pick up the turnouts twice every day. So while clean pastures are the most important component of reducing the fly population, by itself, it didn't appear that it's enough. And so on one of the days where I was doing the cleaning, I noticed that some of the horses seemed to make manure that attracted hundreds or maybe even thousands of flies to the pile. And although it's really gross to look at, with the flies being just black on the manure, it dawned on me that the piles were acting like the very attractant that the fly bags used. And if only there was a way to kill them on the spot, we might have a solution, because you'd kill 1,000 flies at a whack. So I ran to the barn and I grabbed a can of fly killer spray, and in fact I think it was Ortho brand, and I got up into the pile and I gave it a quick shot. And in just a few seconds, all the flies were dead. And I repeated this procedure on the other piles that had that attractant quality. And if you've gone out there and you've cleaned manure, you know that not every pile of manure attracts flies. I'm not quite sure why that is, but some of them are just juicier than other piles. And by the end of the hour, I had probably killed 1,000 flies. So suffice it to say, for the next week, I was a fly-killing fool, and every time Diane would go out to clean, I'd run ahead and give the juicy piles a quick shot. And you know what? By the end of the week, there was no more flies. Seriously. By where all the piles used to be black, there would be no flies. And the flies that used to bother us while we were in the arena were gone. So my tip of the day, or for the whole spring season, is that when you're picking up your manure, carry a can of fly killer. If you see a juicy pile that's attracting flies, get upwind and give it a quick shot of fly spray. A can will last you more than a week. And if you do this every time, in less than a week, you will see a huge decrease in flies. It's the easiest, low-cost method of fly control, and it produces results you will appreciate. And of course, you should be using our Flexin forks to pick up the piles, and you can buy them at our website at EquityMFG.com.
Well, next up, we have Michael Diamond, who's partner and vice president of marketing for English Riding Supply. Was one of the founders of that company. After Millers and Isers went out, that's the company that emerged. They're a very big company. He's been involved in retail and wholesale world since he was a kid, and he's one of the, English Riding Supply now is one of the leaders in equestrian wholesale across this country, and have over 25 different brands that you certainly recognize. Well, let's take a little time to talk to Michael about the history of all of that. Well, hi, Michael, and welcome to the Stable Scoop Show. It's good to talk to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Actually, we go back a long way, but you probably don't remember it because we actually had a tack business in the middle 90s and used to buy from Millers and Isers and and all those companies back then. So I was obviously familiar with you, and I've chatted with you a couple times way back when. But let's even go back further than that. As we said in our introduction of you, you're kind of the guy that's been around for a long time in this industry and selling stuff for a long time. But your family actually started in the jewelry business. You actually got your start there.
Yeah, that's true. We were actually in the wholesale jewelry business in Lexington, Kentucky. And I went to high school and college in Lexington, and kind of couldn't avoid getting involved with horses. Because most of my girlfriends were involved with horses. It seemed to become part of my life. At that time, I actually lived in a thoroughbred horse farm right behind Keeneland. So I had a little bit of initiation of the horse world. But
you didn't live at Calumet, did you?
Well, Calumet was just right down the road.
Okay, all right.
And,
Close enough. Close enough.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, Calumet was like 2 doors down, but we were right behind.
That's not bad when your neighbor is Calumet, you know?
No, exactly.
Yeah, well, they didn't really associate with me, but they were neighbors. They were neighbors. They had beautiful white picket fences that actually took 365 days of the year to paint.
Yeah.
They started at one end and a year later finished at the other. So I was going to high school and college there, and my dad was in the wholesale jewelry business, a lot of horse motif jewelry. And one day, I was looking through a catalog from a company in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yay!
Looking at the prices.
Helena's from right out of Providence, actually. So.
Okay. Well, we used to spend a lot of time in Providence because that's where 110% of the costume jewelry was manufactured.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I always thought it was just clothing up in New England and steel mills and things.
No. Providence, Rhode Island was the capital for the world of costume jewelry, which is base metal, gold-plated. There was a company out of Rhode Island who was selling Western horse jewelry, and I looked at the catalog and looked at the prices and showed it to my dad and said, "Hey, look, they're selling stuff about the same price that we do." I said, "Look at these retail prices." And he says, I don't think those are retail prices. I think they're wholesale. I said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "We're selling this at less than half of the price that this other company was selling it for, and we weren't giving it away." So I said, "Gee, being a genius, wow, you think anybody wants to buy the same product at half the price?" So I started looking in Yellow Pages, and every town that we would travel to, I found these things called tack shops. And so one day, I put on at that time was a very nice linen Pierre Cardin suit and walked into this tack shop and obviously immediately looked out of place.
Yeah,
but
you would have had to have a cowboy hat and some boots on with that suit to look like you were in
I don't know though. Pierre Cardin was it in those days. I would have thought. I would have said, "Well, what's this guy got?"
At that time was pretty nice. Yeah. So
Yeah, especially if you're hawking some bling. It's not like you were going in there with saddles. You were coming in there with some jewelry.
yeah,
I don't know any girl who would not look up and say, "Well, what do you got in there?" I don't care what you're wearing. What you got that's shiny?
Well, it wasn't great for getting dates, horse jewelry, unless you do girls in the horse business, because most people go, "What?" Outside of the fancy suit, walked in the store and said, "Hey, would you like to buy what you're currently buying for half the price?" Well, that highly sophisticated sales pitch usually arrived with a yes. And to make a long story short, I started selling this horse motif jewelry to riding shops in Kentucky and Tennessee, and as we traveled, and as some time had gone on, rather than do what I was supposed to do, which was sell the regular jewelry, I kind of got involved in creating this little company, which was ultimately called Marquis Equestrian Jewelry. And we did everything from solid gold. We won a creative award for De Beers with this diamond in the center of a horse. And we did solid gold, gold filled, and low price stuff, and actually it became a very nice, very fun business while I was going to school. The funny story was one time I called up Sears Roebuck, which at that time was a little bit more of a force in the marketplace, and they had carried some horse things, mostly Western. And I talked to the guy, and I was relatively naive, and went on and on and on about all this horse jewelry that we had, and he listened patiently, and ultimately he says, Michael, he says, you really seem to be a very nice guy, and you really seem to be enthusiastic about your product. He says, but I don't know, do horses really wear jewelry? And I said, no.
And you said, of course they do.
I said, no, man. This is we call it horse jewelry. It's horse motif jewelry for people who are into horses. So that didn't work out as well. Then my dad came to a point where I think it was 1977. Interest rates were like 19%, and my father owned a part of the business. So ultimately, he said, well, should I buy this business? And I said, no. I said, you're only going to be giving it to me and working the rest of your life. I said, why don't I do something and you sell the business? So he did. And about the same time, Miller's, George Tauber Miller's, was kind of amazed that we were selling these display cases of jewelry to riding stores for a higher price than most of them spent on merchandise from Miller's. So that was kind of amazing. So I came to Miller's in '79 to kind of develop the horse motif jewelry business.
And for those that are a little younger than us, Miller's at that point was the leader in wholesale in retail too, in horse products, and it had a catalog and everything. And Miller's had been around forever.
And I remember waiting, calling. Did you get your Miller's catalog yet? Mine just came. Did you get yours? Mine came. What's in it? Did you see?
Yep.
Page 34. It was a big deal. So you went from.
Definitely the Bible. I mean, Miller's was at that point, they had 90% of the business, 80% of the business.
Yeah.
It was a very, very different business world because at that time there was exclusive lines being sold, and very often it was impossible for companies to get product. Product was hard to get, which is totally different than it is today. Miller's did have a retail business, and actually it's kind of an interesting story. They kind of backed into the wholesale business because Joe Miller, during World War II, it was almost impossible to get horse equipment. In fact, his father, Joe Miller's father, Meyer Miller, was actually a harness maker in New York City. And he was kind of like the auto repair business. He was actually in the carriage repair business.
And did they have a store there forever? Right in the middle of Manhattan or whatever?
Yeah, they had a store which was 124th Street between Park and Lexington. And
because everybody thought that didn't know the history of Miller's thought, what are they? Why do we have a tack shop in the middle of New York City?
No, there was actually.
Well, don't forget there was a lot of horses in New York City at that time too, and the garden was a big deal.
Matter of fact, right down the street was basically forgot the name of it, but the stables were there, and there were all kinds of commercial stables in that area. And New York was filled with horses at one point.
Yeah.
So Joe Miller's father, that was his business. But during World War II, there's almost nothing available for the idea of the sport horse business. And because of the rationing during the war, you couldn't get hardly anything. So Joe Miller would go to England, and he would take a truck or lorry or whatever they call it in England, and he would go from place to place trying to buy whatever equestrian equipment and supplies that he had. And he would bring them back to the United States, and they would put them into the Miller's store in Manhattan. And ultimately, as time progressed, people in riders in different parts of the country had heard about Miller's, heard that they had product, and English product, not Western. And so all of a sudden the mail order business was started, and that's how Miller's got into the catalog business.
Sure.
And then as time went on, again, Miller's was really the only importer of product, and Joe Miller was one of the first people to actually build relationships in England and Europe, where he was not only bringing in product from the United States, but he worked with Bert Denemethny, and he worked with Bill Steinkraus, and he really started shaping the product so that it more reflected American tastes or ways of training and riding at the time versus the more European or even the traditional English. No, for 10 years I was at Miller's, and I was a product manager there, and I was responsible for all kinds of good things, developing product ranges, and I came up with the name and the concept for collegiate saddles, and we brought Wintec to America, and was responsible for Good Hands gloves, and really and creating the book industry, and really substantially making a lot of changes in the success of the Miller's product ranges. And then the next 5 years kind of was involved more with the marketing and the product, and continued to build on that. We built the horse clothing business. We built the sportswear business, and the sportswear business became very huge at Miller's. It was kind of funny because it came out of what we said earlier, the gift business, and I was in charge of one of the things was the gift department. And I don't know anything about gifts, and every year we would go out and create barware, and we create, brass door knockers, and at the end of the year, no, not many people bought it. So finally, I was at Devon Horse Show, and I saw this long line snaking around all the little cottages over there. And I said, oh, man, here's something that somebody wants to buy. So I took a look, and it wasn't brass door knockers, and it wasn't bookends, and it wasn't bar sets, but there was all these gals who were standing in line to buy embroidered sweaters. Another stroke of genius. Duh, this is what they want to buy. So we started creating a sportswear division of Miller's. And then in 1990, I left Miller's and came to a company called Izers, which was much smaller. It was about 10% of the size of Miller's. And there, with a bunch of guys, we built the business into one that was larger than Miller's. And we were involved with bringing in Pessoa saddles and mountain horse riding apparel. We created Encores, and we became the largest riding breech company in the world. Ultimately, it became as big as Miller's. The wholesale end of it, we didn't have a catalog and didn't do retail. And in the final days, I was part of a buyout of the company, and bought the company from this place called Caldwell Supply, and became president of Izers, and fortunately we did a lot of good things.
And that was part one of our interview with Michael Diamond, who is the partner and vice president of marketing for English Riding Supply at EnglishRidingSupply.com. We'll do part two next week as we start to get into the history of Tack from Miller's time and Izer's time on to the current. So it's very fascinating because Helene and I have lived through this period of time from the middle 90s on through. We both had our own Tack businesses, and the history of Tack and how we've gotten to have so many products now when we had so few 25, 30 years ago. The world has changed. So part 2 will be next week, EnglishWritingSupply.com. And now it's time for our Tack and Habit segment. Well, it's a hot one out there, and the heat wave has hit much of the United States and the rest of the world. Well, don't let dehydration and electrolyte imbalance sideline your horse. Summer Games electrolytes are formulated to replace both the electrolytes and the trace minerals that are lost when your horse sweats. Its concentrated formula allows you to easily feed the correct amount to meet your horse's changing needs. This electrolyte was developed for the equine athletes at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. We all know that it can get hot in Atlanta. For horses on the go, use Summer Games Electrolyte Plus Paste. Each dose contains a serving of Nalox equine antacid for double the protection against stress. And of course, you can find all of that at Kentucky Performance Products. They take out the confusion of choosing the right supplement. And you can find them at kppusa.com. That's kppusa.com. Well, we're back, and it's time for the Tack and Habit segment, which Helena has picked the product this week, of course, with the help of Kat there. And I got to say, they say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Well, at the World Equestrian Games, I discovered another way to get to a man's heart, and that's through his feet. And Kat saved my feet, and I have loved her ever since. If I wasn't married and she didn't have this boyfriend of hers, I would be asking her out tomorrow. Because there is no finer person than the person that saves your feet at a 16-day World Equestrian Games. And she did that by handing me this package after I was whining to her after about day 3 of my feet were going to fall off. She handed me this package of Draper Therapy socks. I came the next day, and in 2 days, my feet... I never complained about my feet again, did I?
No, you didn't.
I think I came back and kissed you on the cheek every day and thanked you for my feet.
And then you took my picture, too, so you could remember that lovely moment. So.
That's true. I have that. We're going to put that in the show notes. I still have that. I went and found it the other day, actually, because I knew we were going to be talking. And you were part of the 50 Women Project. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, see, so you were part of that project. Yeah.
I know, and I feel so honored to be a part of that.
I know. One of the 50 pretty women I got my pictures taken with one day at the World Equestrian
That's
Games.
all you think about. One of the United States' most important equestrian events is all you remember as having your picture taken with pretty women.
I'm going to make a big montage. It's going to take up the whole wall.
We need to get you behind a horse quickly, so you can start talking about other things.
All right, what product are we talking about here from Draper?
Well, Draper's, I love Draper. You love Draper. We all love Draper. But not a lot of people know what makes Draper special. And, one of the things that, as we're talking about this episode, Tack Through Time, is we got a great history from Michael Diamond about the beginnings of one of the powerhouses in equestrian products. And over the last 30 years, the technology behind equestrian products has changed tremendously. And Draper represents the new age, the state-of-the-art technology in its simplest form, and how it can help benefit not only horses, but people as well. And, I'm a skeptic. I'm born and raised in New York. I come from a family of skeptics, but I try everything, and I give it a good... I try everything. So I think pretty much our Stable Scoop listeners know that. One of the things that I tried on my own personal body before deciding that I would commit to the horse products was the Draper Therapy's knee brace. And I think what makes Draper special is that it features this product called Salient, which, if you go back and listen to one of our previous episodes with Draper, we go into a great amount of detail there. But essentially, it's titanium dioxide, which is a light-absorbing mineral. And what it does at the end of the day is it balances out the amount of oxygen in an organism's blood. So it helps more oxygenated blood flow to areas of the body that might need it. So it creates this balance of oxygenation in your blood. Right?
Yeah.
Kat? And so And that's the simplicity of the technology behind Draper Therapies products. It's not magnetic. It's not heat. It is science. It is bioscience. But it's a little actually. It's just as simple as that. It increases oxygenation in the blood. And if you go and Google oxygenated blood, you will see how important that is to health, athletic performance, mental performance, and a host of other things. So that's the essence of what I think makes Draper special.
Well, before you go on, did you just hire her? I mean, that was the best commercial I've ever heard right there.
Well, wait a minute, because I believe in something. And
she does her homework, so
I'm a science geek. I really am. Because, like I said, there's so much CRAP out there. That's
a scientific term, too.
And I know what that means, too.
Yes, that is the scientific term for go Google Draper products. Okay, so anyway, so what I'm saying is that it's simple stuff. It's not, nobody's trying to sell you any snake oil. Okay, so that's the technology behind it. There are plenty of companies out there who have great technologies, new saddles, new things that we do with leather and stirrup irons. But then there's a business behind the company. And whether or not the people in that business listen to their market, and we talked to Michael about this too, you have to really understand what people need, what horses need, and then go back to your product development team and take that information to your product development. So that's the other thing that I think Draper does well. So what does that mean for me and my product pick today? Well, the knee brace that I have from Draper is amazing. It's just amazing. Why? I don't know. Maybe for all those scientific reasons I just mentioned. But when I put it on and I wear it for a couple of days, my knee just feels so much stronger and better and supported. And I'm good. I don't even have to wear it all the time. I can take it off for a couple of days, couple of weeks, and the knee's good. If I start to feel a little ouchy or sore, I put the brace back on. Couple of days, and again, I get that it's a vitality. That's the only word I can think of, is it has a vitality that's not otherwise there. Okay, and now I'm going to step down off my soapbox. I'm going to let Kat get a word in edgewise.
Well, what's funny is I was talking a little bit on the Western Radio show, and I came up, and this was something, because Salient is also in Reebok, Adidas, Saucony, so there's other really large companies that have picked up this technology, so it offers a tremendous amount of credibility to the science behind it, because they would never step lightly to pick something like this up. But so Reebok, the funny thing about them is that they have their ZigTech line, and that's what Salient is in, in their apparel, not so much their shoes, but they call it an energy drink for your feet. And that's how it is. I mean, the products are really quite funny. I mean, you can wear the socks, and Glenn, you can attest to this, that you feel, vitality from them. It's really quite wonderful.
It's like perky jerky for your feet.
All I know is they stopped hurting.
Perky jerky for your feet. Podiatry perky.
And you know what's funny? You know, that has a lasting effect too, Kat, because every time we go someplace now, like if we go to Disney for the day or whatever, my wife always says to me, make sure you have your Draper socks.
Well, you had a problem a while ago trying to find your Draper socks to begin with, so I think we're making headway into that, so I will have to, hook you up with some new ones, too, so you can find them much easier.
I got to be honest, these are wearing out now.
I had somebody who was stitching the toes together because they just wore them so much, and they're just like, we can't get rid of them, we can't throw them out. And I'm like, even when they're got, holes in all of them, people are still using them and say they still are effective, which is, pretty cool, so...
And I have a hawk boot for Zeke, who he just has arthritis everywhere. He's got arthritis in his nostrils, and it doesn't even fit him very well. I got a size too large because I so believe in the technology behind it. I said, let's just give it a try, even if it doesn't fit. And we put it on him at night when he's in his stall, and invariably it's on the floor in the morning. But whatever time of the night, however much time the material is actually in contact with the joint, it's got to be making a difference, because he definitely comes out of his stall less stiff in the morning. So, it's, I don't know, I just think it's worth it. I really, like I said, when I find something that actually works, because there's this sea of, again, CRAP that doesn't work, you get excited that there's something honest and genuine and effective out there. It's like, you know how I feel about all the poo-poo natural horsemanship. I love it, but there's so much poo-poo. How do you know what works and what doesn't? And then when you find something that's just solid, you just can't stop talking about it.
So what are the price points like on the knee brace that you have there?
The knee brace is $30. So we do it in a medium and a large size. And we have like all the measurements on our website, but you can also call me up and usually I'll help you measure, the right parts so we know which one will fit you.
Now, is the knee brace meant to provide support or, what was the mission of the knee brace?
Well, the knee brace is just to be able to provide therapy to that area.
Okay.
And it's more of, people don't, like, we have something called the body wrap, which it's like almost a polo wrap that you can apply to yourself if you wanted to kind of apply your own pressure and stability to the area. The knee support is more like a sleeve that slides on. It's very lightweight, so you can wear it underneath pants or under breeches or anything like that. But there's these very, very, very thin metal bars on the sides of it, which offers stability to the leg. So it's not going to like restrict movement, but it's going to help stabilize the area.
And I can tell you that I had a conversation with my physical therapist shortly before wrapping up physical therapy, and we were trying to decide on a knee brace, an athletic knee brace that I could wear for riding and whatever other sports I was doing. And so, all that they had to offer, all that the physical therapy industry had to offer were these awful braces that did their job and support, but I couldn't show in them. I couldn't put them under breeches. And I said, you don't understand, it has to be low profile, but still really provide that support. And, sure enough, here comes the Draper knee support. And I showed it to my physical therapist, whose jaw dropped. She said, this is exactly what we were looking for. And the ones that they wanted to sell me were about $300 a piece. So,
And that's what, Jennifer wore knee braces for years for support. And they were always $50-$60. So this is a terrific price, actually, for what we're looking at.
Yep.
And it's made in the U.S.
That was the other thing that we really highlighted on the special we did after Helena went up there is the fact that not only made in the U.S. but still made in New England, right?
Yeah, pretty much everything. If you listen to the other episode, you'll absolutely get to hear the history. But basically, Draper Therapies is part of Draper Knitting Company, which has been around since 1856. They're a textile mill based in New England. Has been
Probably
here
one of the few left, I'll add.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's 6th generation family owned, which is, again, another crazy, crazy thing because that doesn't happen nowadays anymore. But Draper prides itself in being able to source things from the raw materials all the way through the end product being made in the United States or sourced in the United States. So even though we don't make the knee support, we buy it from somebody else, it's made in the U.S. So we try very, very, very hard to stand behind that. And as much as possible, we source it here in New England as well. So.
Okay. That makes sense. And by the way, that episode that we did on Draper is called Made in the USA. It's episode number 174, and that came out December 16th, 2011. So that's when so you went up there around Christmas time.
I did. That's right.
Yeah.
It feels like ages ago.
It does.
It feels like ages ago. But I do travel at warp speed, so that's just me.
Well, that's terrific, Kat. So where can the people find the products?
www.drapertherapies.com.
Sounds good. And where can they learn more about NEDA if they want to?
NEDA.org.
NEDA.org, the North American Dressage Association.
New England Dressage Association.
I do that all the time.
It's okay.
New England Dressage Association. I think I've done that about 100 times.
Yeah, where do you get NA and NE?
No idea. I have no excuse here.
We love you anyway. It's all right. You can make mistakes like that.
It's the end of the hour. The ADD starts kicking in. You know how it is. That's why these shows are only an hour long. It's because I can't go longer than that.
No, but I could. That's why we have trouble. I could go on and on and on, and I do. Oh.
Well,
this is good stuff, though. I mean, this is all really. I love the history of where we've been and where we've come because it gives you something tangible. See, here I go again. It gives you this tangibility. If it's not a word, I'm making it up right now. It gives you this tangibility to progress.
correct.
That's silly. That doesn't. I think you know what I mean. I think everybody listening knows what I mean.
I love how Helena makes up words. And the cool part is she just goes with it like it's definitely a word. I know it must be.
Because I'm making it a word. If it's not a word, if it wasn't a word before I said it, I'm making it one now.
She's so confident.
Nobody needs to worry. I'll just take care of it. You're good. It's a new word. Just live it.
Well, thank you, Kat, for dropping by. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And stopping by Helena's house. It's always nice. I got to go down.
Studio. It's really high tech, okay, Glenn?
Oh, okay. Helena's studio house. And I got to go down to Dr. Wendy Ying's place in Sarasota, Florida on Monday and record the driving show from her place down there. Absolutely beautiful. Sarasota, Florida is a beautiful place, too. Well, you were down that way, too, Helena, I think.
Yes, we went through there, although Wendy wasn't around at the time. Otherwise, we would have moved right in with her. Yeah, we stopped off at, I don't know if I said this in the last show or not. We stopped off at Tampa, Clearwater, Clearwater, St. Petersburg area. And we got to see Winter the dolphin.
That's right,
and the star of A Dolphin Tale. So the dolphin with the prosthetic tail.
We got to go to Siesta Key Beach, which is one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you saw the picture that I posted of Jennifer and I on the beach. It is the whitest, finest sand that I've ever felt. And it's huge. The beach is just huge, really wide. It was just beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's nice. That's Sarasota?
Yeah, that's Sarasota. And they say it's one of the nicest beaches in Florida because the sand is so incredibly fine. And white, And
how far is that from your house?
That's about 2 hours from us. And of course, the Gulf is like bathwater.
Oh, did you see any pelicans? Did you swim with pelicans?
We ate dinner at the old Salty Dog restaurant.
I thought you were going to say we ate pelicans. I'd have to hang up on you.
We ate dinner at the old Salty Dog restaurant, and right behind me was this pier. It was right on the water, and there was this pier that's sticking out, and there was a pelican on that piece of wood the entire time we ate, so he was about 10 feet behind me. There were pelicans everywhere.
They're awesome.
You know what else we saw for the first time, Kat, that I've never seen in person before, in the wild, in zoos and everything, was a bald eagle. There was a bald eagle hanging out in Wendy's neighbor's yard. It was just hanging out in the yard, walking around, eating things, and hanging out. Bald eagle. Yep, it was really cool.
Just hanging out.
Yeah. Apparently there's a lot of bald eagles in southern Florida.
Good.
Yep, they've made a comeback down there. But that was fun, so that was a good time. And Kat, you get to spend a lot of time in Florida too, but you're on the other coast. You're down Wellington area.
Yeah, I am. Yep.
But the beaches are beautiful over there too.
I don't know. I'm working, remember?
You never got to the beach?
Well, when I was working down there, I took an internship down there when I was with school, so I spent some time there. So on my days off, I would go to the beach. So yes, they are really nice.
Only about 5 minutes away from where you were working.
We're horse people. We don't even get 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, everybody. Kat from Draper Therapies and Michael from Equestrian Riding Supply for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, too, Helena.
My pleasure, I think. My pleasure.
And we'll be back again next week with another episode of the Stable Scoop Radio Show. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.